giftable beauty. Stocking stuffers perfect for everyone, starting at $10. Shop now. Check off your Christmas list with 4 new limited edition gift sets. Plus, find a value-sized skincare gift set tailored just for you. Grab a friend and come down to the new Merle Norman in West Acres. Your holiday look awaits at Merle Norman Fargo.
Nordic Inspection joins the KFGO morning crew every Tuesday at 6:40 a.m. to tell you what you should keep on top of or fix to keep your house in tip-top shape. He'll also be answering your housing questions. Catch it all right here on the mighty 790 KFGO.
All the planning, work, and preparation for the holidays. Why do we do it? In the blur of life, we can take our blessings for granted, distracted by the noise and our own interests. We gather to slow down and reflect on what truly matters. Time with loved ones and cherishing simple moments. We gather to choose gratitude. Merry Christmas and happy holidays from all of us at Shields.
News for Morgan Wonk.
National guitar. And hear the verdict. Dominique Pellico, Giselle's longtime husband and father of her 3 children, got the maximum sentence of 20 years. The 50 others were also found guilty, but they received lighter sentences. Several who had already served time in pretrial detention actually walked free today. That enraged many in the crowd out front who verbally attacked one provocative defense lawyer when he left the courtroom. Victis Herrera said she was disgusted.
La justice française n'est pas... C'est pas une justice.
French justice is shameful, she says. When you see that men who do that only get 3 years, it means it's accepted by society. And I don't want to live in that society. But defense lawyers told NPR each man's case was different, and being tried as a group made it harder to get a fair hearing. One said the case was too sensationalized. And it's true that 3 months of non-stop coverage pitched French society into a heated debate about patriarchy, machismo, and systemic misogyny. Lawyer Elodie Tuaillon represents rape victims in Paris.
I must say it's a bit of a disappointment for us because the penalties are quite low.
But she says the trial was still a huge step forward.
Something really historical happened, and we owe it to Giselle Pellico first, that's for sure. It gave a lot of strength to women, much more confidence in justice also, which is very important, I think.
Pellico stepped out. The crowd was waiting for her. There's just hundreds of people out front. She's walking down the street with a scrum of cameras and reporters all around her, following her. The world also applauded. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz hailed Pellico's courage on social media. Mexican Paula Rebel, who lives in Avignon, called it an amazing moment.
Because most women in Latin America, most women in Mexico, they don't get any justice, and they are blamed. So seeing this is a victory.
Provence tour guide Claire Tourkin-Silhouette says Pellico has changed France.
She took what she went through to help the society to move. We need some strong women like that.
Speaking after the verdict, Pellico said when she opened the doors of this trial in September, she wanted society to reflect on the debate she knew would take place. I never regretted this decision, she said. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Avignon.
You probably own a chair or a table or a sofa, and you probably think you know why you bought it because it was blue or the right price. But what if the style, the color, the cost were choices made for you years before you even thought about buying that piece of furniture? Amanda Aronchik from our Planet Money podcast takes us to meet the people who set trends for the furniture world.
Downtown High Point, North Carolina is made up of 13 city blocks filled with furniture showrooms, displaying the latest in sofas and side tables, lighting fixtures.
This is like Disney World for furniture.
High Point Market is held twice a year, and it's basically a trade show. My guide is Jay Anna Mize, a VP at Fashion Snoops, which specializes in trend forecasting. Jay has arranged for me to meet a client of hers, Caroline Hipple, the Chief Creative Officer for Harper Furnishings, one of the largest furniture manufacturers in the country.
let me have a hug first. Look how beautiful you look.
Full disclosure, Caroline was not talking to me. She was talking to Jay, who was wearing a dark purple coat. It seems like this color choice was not an accident. As we tour the showroom, I see it on her couch and some pillows.
What color would you say that is?
Huckleberry. Yeah. So Jay's purple coat, they call it huckleberry. This is the color.
And even my nails are kind of that color.
But unlike in the fashion world, Jay explains that fashion in furniture moves much more slowly.
Yeah, so I said huckleberry a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's really when this whole process began, with consumer research. Jay's prediction is based on the idea that during uncertain times and times of social upheaval, people are drawn to grounding colors, darker colors. For Caroline, that made a lot of sense.
You think about what's going on in the economics of the world, what's going on in the environment that affects how the consumer feels. And then you'll see that translated into the choices they make to furnish their home.
So Caroline and Hooker Furnishings went big on huckleberry. They made some couches, some sweet chairs, some pillows in that color. And I don't know, I kind of like it. So wait, so did I want that color?
You will want that color.
I do now.
That's perfect. That's how working with someone like Passion Snoops helps us.
Clearly, I'm a sucker for huckleberry. Caroline's company is also trying out a couple other new colors, terracotta and mustard. The real question, though, is will retailers like Wayfair or Crate and Barrel or Restoration Hardware order these products for their stores? So to find out, I called Caroline a few weeks after the market to ask her which colors retailers actually bought.
The dusty terracotta seemed to be the biggest draw.
Do you think terracotta might have beat out my favorite huckleberry?
I think maybe so, but don't count huckleberry out.
She says that sometimes newer colors are a risk.
It takes a couple of seasons for them to really gain traction and people to figure out how they can use it.
So yeah, huckleberry hasn't taken off yet, but you might see a few huckleberry items in stores in 2025, and you can be the judge. Amanda Orachik, NPR News.
Support for Planet Money comes from Workday. With AI at the core of its system, Workday is committed to delivering continuous innovation to prepare organizations for what's next. Workday, an enterprise platform for finance and HR rockstars.
We've taken the edge off winter. We just don't get as cold as we used to, and last winter was extraordinarily warm.
You may think of hotter summers when you think of climate change, but in Minnesota, most of the warming is actually happening in winter. And that's had an impact on our tourism and recreation industries. Pete Boulay is with the Minnesota State Climatology Office. He's been tracking trends there. Hey Pete, welcome back to ClimateCast.
Glad to be here, Paul.
So Pete, rewind to last winter, obviously a record warm winter for most of Minnesota, but just how much have our winter temperatures warmed overall in the past 50 years?
You know, what we've seen is really we just don't get as cold as we used to, and last winter was extraordinarily warm. I mean, it was off the scale warm. Warm as we've seen since we've really started keeping real track of records back into the 1890s. So, but what's really a big factor is places like the Twin Cities, we just don't see minus 20 degrees anymore. In places like St. Cloud and little towns in the state like Milan, places like that we keep an eye on, doesn't get down to minus 30 anymore.
And so we're not seeing those as extreme temperatures in winter as often. But here's a curiosity. Why are winters warming faster than summers?
We're missing the snowpack, a deep snowpack. We've seen over the years, deep snow cover has gone down across many places in the state. And there's a big difference between having just very little of snow on the ground, like an inch or so, to having a foot of snow on the ground or more. So the deeper the snowpack, the more effective you can reflect solar radiation in the space, especially with the new snowpack. If it's over 4 inches deep, we also cut off any ground temperature. If there's any residual heat in the ground from escaping, so we form that insulation over the ground. So very easy to reflect solar radiation right off of the space with a nice bright snow cover.
So the persistence of snow cover, obviously less. What about lake ice in Minnesota? What are those trends?
Well, definitely seeing less lake ice overall in the state. Kind of both ends of it. It's freezing up later, thawing off a little earlier. That said, there's a high variability there. This year, we're fairly close to average, maybe a few days later, but we had pretty much a rapid ice cover development first half of December. The lakes hadn't frozen yet, so at least we're kind of roughly on average, maybe a little bit later, but in general, we've seen less ice cover overall.
With everything you're looking at, Pete, both back in the rearview mirror of climate and forward in our weather and climate, does it look like these trends will continue?
I think what we're going to see is still year-to-year variations, of course. I don't think winter's going to go away. I could see definitely the trend continuing onward. That said, to put a kind of a bright spot on it, if we can maintain the snowpack but not get as cold, it might be easier to enjoy the snow. It's hard to enjoy snow if it's 30 below zero. If the temperature doesn't get too warm and melt the snow, we'll still have areas to enjoy winter in the state. I don't think it's going to go away completely. We still are getting big winter storms. We will still get them. So I would hate to advise anybody to let their guard down that winter can't happen, because winter can have a way of sneaking up on you in the state. Historically, that's what's happened in the past. The key is, how long will it stay on the ground?
And that's a great point, because even though winters might warm 5, 6, 7 degrees versus 100 years ago, that's still cold enough for snow in Minnesota, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think we'll still get snow.
Pete Boulay with the Minnesota State Climatology Office. Thanks for sharing your perspective on ClimateCast today.
Stay warm.
That's ClimateCast. I'm NPR News Chief Meteorologist Paul Hunter.
And from climate to weather now with meteorologist Paul Hunter. And Pete Boulay got it right. We can still get some snow, can't we, Paul?
Boy, can we ever. And this system today, Tom, performed perfectly on the intensity that the forecast models were suggesting. 3 to 7 inches, pretty widespread across Minnesota. But because every winter storm in Minnesota is like a box of Cracker Jack, there's a free toy surprise inside. We got it shifted south a little bit, so a little less snow to the north, a little more to the south and west. Twin Cities still got the snow, but a little less north and more to the southwest. Tom, we can check some of those snowfall totals if you like.
It's like, yeah, let's do that. Run through it.
Yeah, Fargo, Grand Forks area, 3 to 4 inches. Holm, east of there, had 7 inches. You get down to Wilmer, it was about 5. Twin Cities area, about 3 to 6 inches. 3.5 in Blaine, 4, Maple Grove, Fridley, 5, the airport, Woodbury, Oakdale, and then you get to White Bear Lake, you had 6. Victoria, 5.5, Belle Plaine, 6.5, Tom. Southwest of the Twin Cities, the sweet spot, New Prague, 7 inches so far. St. Peter, 6.2, Bird Island, 6.8.
And you said that yesterday in the Twin Cities. You wouldn't be surprised to see these pockets of 7 inches of snow.
Indeed, and so far we have New Prague in with that, but it's still snowing, especially hard south of the Twin Cities, Tom. So I could not be surprised to see a couple of 8 or 9 inch totals by the time this is done late tonight.
All right, let's talk about that. It's not done yet, is it?
No, it's winding down gradually as we go through tonight. Still a lot of snow across parts of Minnesota. Twin Cities, occasional snow showers, maybe another inch or so. Southern Minnesota, another 1 to 3 inches. I-90 corridor still snowing heavily in Albert Lea, Rochester. This will eventually wind down tonight. Winter storm warnings are up till midnight, Tom, and gusty winds and blowing snow tonight.
All right, and what did you see through the weekend?
Yeah, great weather to get out and play in all this fresh snow. Tomorrow, 16 for the high in the Twin Cities, 19 on Saturday, 28 on Sunday with a mixture of sun. Tom, next week, that thaw still on track. Probably lower 30s early next week. I think we'll keep the snow around till Christmas, and then maybe upper 30s to 40 late next week.
All right, Paul Hunter, thank you for the update.
Thanks, Tom.
Programming is supported by Verseek Search and Consulting's podcast, People Make It Possible. Kathy Rabideau and Chris Dargis discuss with Minnesota business leaders how they ascended to where they are today on podcast apps or peoplemakeitpossible.com.
Support comes from Carlson Capital Management, an integrated wealth management firm that has everything you need in-house. Thoughtful financial planning solutions for complex situations. Connect with a fiduciary advisor at carlsoncap.com.
I'm Tom Grant in the Twin Cities with all things considered from NPR News. President-elect Donald Trump is promising to start mass deportations of undocumented immigrants and impose other restrictive immigration policies once he takes office. Minnesota immigrant rights groups say while they don't want to evoke fear in their communities, they are finding ways to stay prepared. And reporter Sarah Tamer has been following the story and speaking with some of them, and she joins me now with more. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Tom.
So the president-elect has yet to take office. No action has been taken, but we know what he's promised during the campaign, right? So how are the organizations that you're talking to preparing for what could come starting early next year?
Yeah, well, several organizations that I've been reporting on and speaking with, they're immigrant advocacy groups based here in Minnesota, they say they're trying their best to prepare for what a Trump presidency could bring, while keeping in mind that they've had to do similar work under the Biden administration, so it's not entirely new to them. The Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee is one of those groups. They're hosting what they call an immigration raid response training